Hello everyone. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the video. Today is going to be a little bit different. I'm not quite going to focus on one of these steps. I could, maybe if we get enough time, but this isn't initially what I want to focus on. What I want to focus on is updating my solution to not use the scanner, because I don't like using the scanner because it essentially just will scan for every new line, which in a lot of the use cases is fine. There's no issues with that, but I know that whenever we get to bulk strings and things like that that have a length, that's where the scanner really begins to break down. Because right now, so I'm using my scanner to break up the data into chunks, right? And I'm just looking at every new line and seeing what the content is there and acting like that's all the data. But whenever I get a bulk string, it has a length, a content length associated with it, and rather than using that content length, I'm just looking for the new line. It's great for simple bulk strings, not great for actually bigger bulk strings that may or may not have those new line characters in there, because then I'm not actually reading all the content. So I am going to go ahead and work on fixing that today. There are two main aspects to this. One's pretty short and one actually has to do with the code. The first thing that I'm hoping is relatively short is finding out how to test against a previous stage with CodeCrafters, the CLI. We are going to have to see how we're going to go ahead and do that. I wonder, I'm not seeing any option to basically revert back to this step, which is understandable. So let's dive into the CLI for this and see if we have something for us. CLI, how do I use the CLI? Ooh. To run tests against all previous stages, just add the previous flag. Okay, cool. You can then make changes to your codebase and rerun the test bar and CodeCrafters test again. You don't need to commit your changes using git to run tests using the CLI. Okay, perfect. Nice. That's exactly what I was looking for, and we got our answer. Let me make sure. Okay, we're up to date. If I go to lazy git, I don't have anything here pending at all. So if I need to revert back to it, it'll be easy. So I think that the answer is to use the buff.io reader, but I'm not 100% sure. I know with the buff.io reader we can read to a new line character, but I'm not sure if we can read a certain number of bytes, and really that's the main requirement that I'm looking for. I think you can, but we're going to have to find that out. r.read byte line, read rune, read bytes. No. Read slice. No. So the buff.io reader might not be what we're looking for. I'm not sure if just a standard IO reader has that. Buff.io reader, read a number of bytes. Read a specific number of bytes from buffered reader. Buff.io.read method calls the underlying IO.read at most once, meaning that can return that. That's IO.read full. IO.read full. That doesn't look like what I'm looking for. I I need to be able to read a specific number of bytes from a reader that will advance the reader. Basically identical to the function above. Note that the buff.io reader calls the underlying io.read at most once, meaning that it can return in as less than the length of p without reaching the end of file. If you want to read exactly length p bytes or fail with an error, you can use read full. What the fuck is P? I don't like this. No, I want to read. Read all. Why can't it just be like read to, and then it tries to read to a certain number? I don't understand why the hell that's so difficult. I don't know if I can use the scanner for that. File scanner, scan a number of bytes. A certain. How to overcome scan buffer limit from no. Maybe I shouldn't be using the buff file. So I'm not seeing a well-defined solution for this. Let me just read the other ones that I've opened up. That's not what I want. For a recent project, I need to read data from a specific chunk of a file. The data was a sequence of serialized records, so I used buff.io scanner. For splitting, scanners are great, but they obscured the exact number of bytes read. In working through the problem, I found a solution that worked quite nicely. Essentially, the problem boiled down to this. I wanted to use buff.io scanner to cleanly split data records, but I also need fine-grained control over exactly how many bytes were being read. Simply counting the bytes in the input record is insufficient because data records may be split using variable width delimiters. Yeah. My initial thought was to wrap IO reader. I was reading the records at the time. Yeah. So I kind of like the idea of just going with my own solution. Like, I'm not finding it. It doesn't seem like it's supported at all. So maybe build my own function for it. Seems like an interesting rabbit hole. Let's see. So I think essentially what I would need to do is read the full file or read the full input and then have a scanner that will return like a slice of that. Of the data that I'm looking for. I think I can do that. Now the question is what it would look like. So I wonder if I can kind of draw this out. I have no idea how that's going to work, but we're going to find out. So custom scanner. We would need an IO reader. I feel like we'd need the data. We would need current index to know where we are at in the reader. A concern would be reading more than is available. Let me just play around with this and see what our options are, because my main thing r.read reads data into P. It returns the number of bytes read into P. Length. Read bytes, if not now, bar print. Peak. The really annoying thing is like peak is exactly what we're looking for, except it doesn't advance the reader. And I don't understand why there isn't a version of peak that does that. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. I'm sure there's probably some reason for it. Excuse me, but I don't know what it is. Okay, discard write to buffered. Buffer returns the number of bytes that can be read from the current buffer. Okay. That looks very promising. That looks very promising indeed. So I think this can kind of tell us the total size of it, which is good. Binary line, we already went through all that. Okay. So let's add these and see how it goes. Let me just clean this up really quickly because my keyboard is sliding all over the place and I don't like that. There we go. Much better. Okay. Type. Custom reader. Horrible name, but whatever. Struct. Reader of type io.reader. Cur index. Int. And what else do we have? Data. I don't know if we need that. We might, but I don't know if we do yet. I feel like we will. Sorry, there was a truck moving slowly past my house. I had to check it out. It's very important. So, I'm not sure if we have to read everything into 1 byte array. Because it feels like then that would get pretty big. And maybe we can have a buffered amount. We're gonna have to play around with it. Func init custom reader. We're going to pass it in a buffio dot reader, and we're going to return a custom reader. New reader equals custom reader. Reader equals the r dot read. Can I just do that? Yeah. Return new reader. Current index is going to be at 0. Now, here's the thing. I'm thinking we should have 1024. Yeah, 1024. 528. 1064? What the fuck is it? Why am I struggling with this? 1024. Yeah, it is that. For some reason, I just need to see the number. So, new reader dot data equals make byte 0 1024. I want to have a length of 0 and a capacity of 1024. And what we need to do is fill that with data. Maybe I can do that. Cannot use R variable type buff hour as buff hour reader. Have it as a reference? Okay, I guess that works. I don't know why that works with the IO.reader and not that, but whatever. df that. Let's see what our options are. Dot read. I think it's still just going to be read. Read reads data into P. It returns the number of bytes read into P. The bytes are taken from at most one read on the underlying reader. Hence, N may be less than the length of P. To read exactly length of P bytes, use io.read full. If the underlying reader can return a non-zero count with io.eof, then this read method can do so as well. I think we do want read full. But does that advance the reader? Read full reads exactly length of buffer bytes from R into buff. It returns the number of bytes copied and an error if fewer bytes were read. The error's EOF only if no bytes were read. If an EOF happens after reading some bytes but not all the bytes, read full returns error unexpected EOF on return and equals length of buffer if and only if error equals nil. If R returns an error having read at most length of the buffer byte. If R returns an error having read at least length of buffer bytes, the error is dropped. Okay. So that's not too bad. I think I'm gonna go with just read. New reader dot read. And we're gonna read it into the new reader dot data. And this is gonna return an error. In error equals that. Handle error. I'm trying to determine whether or not we need in. I'm not sure if we need in right now. I feel like it'd probably be useful. Let's name this to buffer bytes. And the thing is, I don't know if in is going to be the same as the length of the buffer. I think we're just gonna have to find that out whenever we are debugging. Okay, so we have that. So we have our custom reader. Now we need to add a function onto a type. And func custom reader read in bytes. Yeah. Int in. And we're going to return out the bytes. So our data that we're going to be reading, result equals make a byte array with the length of n. Return the result so that way that stops yelling at me. Simple enough so far. So if we want to read 5 bytes, let's say we're starting at 0, then we're going to be going to 4. So I think what we need to do is result equals custom. How do we Golang functions on type on struct. methods. Okay, you give it an alias. Yeah, that makes sense. Obviously. R dot buffer R dot current index to in R dot current index plus n. I don't know why. Oh, there we go. That's why that was yelling at me. R dot buffer. Is that? But now we need to set the current index. R dot current index plus n minus 1. So we do need to handle a couple of edge cases. If, let me just go here and steal this. If that is, let me just turn that into variable. End index equals that. End index minus 1 or plus 1, because that is not inclusive. If end index is greater than or equal to the length of the current buffer, then we have an issue. What we need to do is grab the data that's currently in the buffer, and then we need to reload the buffer with more data and then read the remaining amount. So to do that, I think we're going to need one more function, func r custom reader advance buffer. I don't think that we, at this time, it doesn't have to take anything in. R dot buffer hold on. Let me make sure this advances the buffer. Does buffio dot reader dot read advance the reader? I think it does. Buffer.io, it wraps an IO, reader IO, creating another object, reader writer, that also implements the interface but provides buffering and some help for textual IO. 4096 bytes, that makes sense. What? This looks interesting. package buff.io has method peek that returns the next in bytes without advancing the reader, but there is no simple / efficient way to peek in bytes and advance the reader like this. Read in buff.io equals beta peek. Beta r plus equals in L. I know that standard answer is to fork package you need, but I think such method will be widely useful for parsing protocols that contain data links. Redis protocol. Holy shit. That's crazy. Which can be parsed like this. Just call read. Design requires allocation on every existing design allows reuse of the buffer. We should not encourage designs that force allocation. So I can just I think I can just use what we have now based on that. So r.read yeah. So I think what it's suggesting is essentially if we knew that we only needed to read 5 bytes, then we would just read into a slice of 5 bytes, I guess. Let's try it out and see how we feel about it. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. So r.read line. Read line is a low level line ring primitive. Most callers should use reader.read bytes. Okay. Nope. Read bytes. /n. And returns a byte array. First line data error equals that. So let's just try it out. Let's get rid of the scanner because I really don't like using the scanner. Handle error. Is it because I do not have this? Yep. Okay. So that works up until then. Now we're gonna have to go and jump to this. Change this to a reader. Now I don't think this is really a concern for the array. It might be a concern for the array. Let me see. I gotta get into the Redis documentation for this. *2 RN $4. So it is kind of a concern. Okay, so what we can do is we're doing s.scan, get command bytes. Our data equals r.read bytes /n, which is essentially what it was doing. Now I will have to trim off the /r. Because I feel like there's some good shorthand to do that. Golang trim last element. Remove last element from slice. Okay. I thought there was an easier way to do it with like a -1 or some shit, but not a length of slice -1, but whatever, that's fine. Our data equals our data length of our data. Nope. -1, and I'll go ahead and add one more wrapping right there. Every time. Replace that. Handle the error. Okay. Now in here we just pass the array data. And so here, what are we expecting for the get command info? If the length is 1, and also I need to make sure let me just build a function to read to a new line and also trim off the /r, because I'm gonna have to do that a million times, and that's gonna be func read to new line and trim carriage. I don't think that's gonna be the right terminology, but that's fine. So R, we're gonna be expecting a pointer to a buffio.reader, and we're gonna be returning a byte array. Let me just go back up to what I did right here. Return array data. Let me rename that. I gotta work on my replaces in Vim. It can be a lot faster. Get that. No, I don't need any of that. Boom. Let me go back up really quickly to where we are reading it initially. Getting really close to the point where we need to rewrite this. That's fine. Not there yet. Read to new line R. Boom. Don't need any of that. Okay. Back down here. So, getting the command info. If there's only one thing, then we simply just return that command. Otherwise, we have the number of elements. And what do we do with that? I think we can just keep our RN, because what I'm thinking is that essentially what's going to happen is we're going to have to whatever. So /n hello hell to make it work. /r/n. So we're going to, if we read 4 bytes, we're going to be able to read to there, and then we'll also still be able to read to the new line. We're just going to be skipping over that. And then whenever we read to the new line, it should get us there. Does read bytes include the byte? Read bytes reads until the first occurrence of the delimiter in the input, returning a slice containing the data up to and including the delimiter. If read bytes encounters an error before finding a delimiter, it returns the data read before the error and the error itself, often io.eof. Read bytes returns error equals nil if and only if the return data does not end in the delimiter. For simple uses, okay. If error does not equal nil and error does not equal EOF. Did I do that right? Yeah. Fatal log.fatal error. Okay, so actually it needs to be -2. Because I don't want to include the /r or the /n. I'm happy I read that. Okay. So now we can go back to bulk string. So I need to kind of get back into this headspace a little bit. I had this set up so that it would just read the next new line and then return that text. So theoretically, if this is set up in the same way, we can just read the length, but I'm not 100% sure. Because we're gonna have our number of elements. I need to really think about this, because we're just handling it in such a different way. Okay, so we have our *2. We already have our command length. whenever we get to this area, right? So we already have the star 2. At that point, I think so at least. Let me see. So the reader is going to be at this point. Whenever we get in there. And what it's going to do is it's going to say, okay, we have 2 elements here. The first one's going to be $4. And that's where we're getting the command info. So we're now here. Yeah. Okay, so we need to read the number of bytes and then read the carriage. I think that's what we need to do. So let's go here. Data equals make an array of bytes with a length of command info dot length. And then we're going to change this from a scanner to a reader. We're going to return the data. We're going to say r.read into the data. And I don't think we need that. We can just say that, and then error equals that, and then we'll handle the error. And one final thing we need to do is read to the new line and trim the carriage. And we can pass it the reader. And we don't need what it's returning, because it's just going, honestly, it's going to return nothing. I don't think so, at least. And we'll just convert that. I think that's it for that. Okay. Is there anything else? I don't think we're gonna end up needing this at all, but I'm gonna keep it for right now. Place that with the reader. Nothing else seems to be giving errors. Let's see if we actually successfully did that. Let's test the previous ones. It's gonna have to build and everything, but I'm relatively happy with that solution. Let's see. I'm sure we'll have a couple of hiccups, but let's find out. As the documentation said, the scanner is really good for simple solutions. Slice bounds, -2. $2.95 to $99. Handle the connection. length of the data. If length data equals 0, turn byte. Can I just do that? Let's try that out. Because it's having the same issue with like the empty string that we had. Okay. Guitar. Okay, we're back to where we were. Fantastic. I love it. I love to see it. Let's get rid of... So I finally answered my question about how to just read a certain number of bytes. I just need to create a container with the number of bytes that I need and just read into that. I might not even need to do that. I can probably just do it using the slices. But either way, that is a way of doing it. So let's clean up the extra things that I end up not needing. It's a little bit of a shame that I end up not needing to create my own custom reader, but, you know, who knows? Maybe one day I'll need to do it. So, as I was saying, like, the scanner is great, but I think it is really only for very simple use cases. Where you know your delimiter is only going to be used in those areas. I feel like maybe a CSV would be good, but even then, that gets complicated because if a string has a new line character, it wouldn't work. Maybe if it was a simple CSV where you knew that was not going to happen, but I don't know. I feel like it has very limited uses. Maybe if you write a custom solution, like a custom scanner, but I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. Removed scanner. Git push. Okay. Very happy with that. Very, very happy with that. Once again, that's okay. So, I think we can make a little bit more progress today. Not a ton more, because I'm going to call it soon. But maybe I'll get started with the point where it's at least accepting the arguments. --dir. Okay, so let's see what we're looking at in our main. Let me close out some of these because I don't need a lot of them. And it gets very annoying whenever you just have a million things open. Going, access, launch, arguments. I might go with that. I know it's not the right term. Command line arguments. os.args. So, hold on. Command line arguments are a common way to parameterize execution of parameters. For example, go run hello.go. Use run and hello.go arguments to the Go program. os.args provides access to raw command line arguments. Note that the first value in the slice is the path to the program, and os.args 1 colon holds the arguments to the program. You can get individual args with normal indexing. And due to this, I think I'm going to have to call it a little bit early. I hate to be so sudden, but sadly real life is calling. So I'm going to return to that. I'm happy we were able to get this done though. So I hope you enjoyed watching, and tune in for the next one. We will definitely knock out this next one without too much trouble. But I will catch y'all later. Deuces.